Hello good people of YouTube, and welcome to my hobby channel and this series of videos in which I take a look at some of the grand battle scale miniatures from Wargames Atlantic. But last week I reached out to the good people at Wargames Atlantic and asked them if there was any way that they could help support my channel, and I told them I was particularly interested in their 10mm range of miniatures, and they very kindly sent me all of these. And in this video I will be taking a look at the 10mm Orc Horde. Okay, so here we've got the Orc Horde, 252 hard plastic 10mm figures, and from that you can make 72 Orc Bowmen, that's 6 bases worth, 36 Orc Spearmen, which is 3 bases worth, 36 Light Swordsmen, 36 Heavy Swordsmen, 36 Heavy Axemen, and 12 Warg Riders, which are 6 bases. There are 1.5 frames of bases and some smaller individual bases or stands as well. And then there are 3 identical sprues containing all the miniatures. So we'll take a closer look at these now. I don't know if there's any logical order to these. There seem to be some swords there, axes there, bows there, axes there, spears there. So it seems to be crammed full, but not necessarily laid out in any particular order. So just have a quick look at that, which is obviously a command. We've also got smaller bases as well, which I guess means you can shuffle the order of things around a little and create some variety in the ranks, so you're not just painting and basing the same duplicate strip over and over again. And there is enough detail on each of these figures for them to look quite different, even at this small scale. So I'll just quickly scan across some of these individual figures. And then the smaller groups. And then we've got the Warg Riders here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 archers, and then a Warg Rider with a sword, presumably some sort of captain or something. Then there's a Orc casualty there. And there's a casualty there. And then we've got another couple of command figures there. Musician and standard bearer. And possibly some single figures that could be used as command. So this is a sprue that is absolutely crammed full. And I think the best way of sorting out what's there is just to snip everything off. And start working out how to fill the bases. thought I'd take a look at each of the different sets of miniatures that you get on every sprue. I started this video about a week ago and various things have got in the way. So unfortunately this is dragging on a lot longer than I wanted to. But here we have the first of 4 different warg riders or wolf riders. And this guy here is armed with a sword. We then have an orc wolf rider or warg rider with bow firing forwards. We have another that has just fired the bow. I don't know if you can see, again, production restrictions probably. The space between the back feet is filled, and the space underneath the arm and between the bow is filled as well. That's something that you can mitigate when you paint these. Normally I would be priming 10mm miniatures bright white to help make the colours pop, but with these orcs they'll be primed black and dry brushed up in earthy tones, so we will deal with that in the painting video. And the last of the 4 different wolf riders or warg riders is firing an arrow towards the rear. Here we have the first of the command strips. Standard bearer and musician. Orc with a spear, and then obviously an orc that looks like some kind of hero. Then on the second command strip we have another standard bearer and a drummer. The drums have been supplied separately and they are tiny, so I will be snipping that off the sprue properly and gluing that to the chest of the orc drummer. And there are 3 of those in the box. So there are 72 orc bowmen in the box, and this is the strip of 5 that you get. And you get 3 of those. And then there's a variety of poses for the strips of 3. This is one. This is another one. And this is the last. And then we have this strip of 2. And this strip of 2. And then we have these 3 individual orc archers. And these 3 individual orc archers. And there are 36 orc spearmen in the box, and this is the strip of 5. We then have a strip of 3. And a strip of 2. And finally 2 single Orc Spearmen. Next we have 36 heavy swordsmen, so I suppose these are meant to be like orcs with big choppers. Strip of 5, and you can tell that they are heavy swordsmen because of the big bladed weapons that they have, and also they're wearing helmets and lots of armor. And then we have a strip of 3, a strip of 2, and then 2 individual orc heavy swordsmen. We then move on to the 36 light swordsmen, and here's a strip of 5 orcs with slightly smaller swords, less armor and no helmets. And that's the strip of 5. We then have a strip of 3, a strip of 2, and then 2 individual orc light swordsmen. And finally, to finish up with, we've got the orc heavy axemen. A strip of 5 here. Then we have a strip of 3. A strip of 2. And 2 different individual orc heavy axemen. And together with those troops you also get 3 different types of casualties on each sprue, so that's a total of 9 that you can decorate your bases or battlefield terrain with. So I've just laid out the contents of the Orc Horde box there. I think these are designed to go in rows of 6, so you get 12 miniatures per base. Now I've just done them in strips of 5, so that's given me a load of leftover miniatures that you can see at the front here. And I'll probably do that when I come to painting and basing the models. I'll probably thin the troops out a little to give me some extras, because one of the things I'll be doing is making some war machines, and I'll need a few extra orc bodies to man those. So we've got 6 bases there of the orc wolf riders. The noses and the tails on the wolves make that a bit tricky, so I will probably have to mount these up slightly offset so that they rank up nicely. So the overhang there is something you need to look out for. Then we've got the Orc Spearmen here. As I said, I'm doing 10 miniatures per base instead of 12. I could even thin some of the ranks out a bit more than that. I think when you get towards the back of a unit, sometimes it's quite nice to break the last rank or 2 up and make them look a bit more scattered. It suggests that the concentration of troops is at the front, where they're all fighting and things thin out as you get to the back of a unit. That sometimes looks quite good, and it also gives you extra figures to play around with. We've then got 2 units here of archers. Now, a lot of these archers are actually singles, so I haven't filled the bases as much as I would. And that's why there are so many out the front here. We then have the Orc heavy swordsman next to the Orc light swordsman. Now, I would be tempted to mix these up because the heavy swordsmen seem to have slightly bigger blades on some of the weapons, and they're wearing helmets and armor, but there's a lot of repetition going on just using the models that you've got there. And a lot of the smaller strips, where you get 2 or 3 miniatures instead of 5, appear to be just a repetition of the strip of 5, just cut down. So it's very difficult to avoid repeated patterns in the ranks there. Alternatively, you could do a base that was entirely heavy swordsman, and then rank it up next to a base that was light swordsman, and alternate like that, heavy, light, or just put them in a big bag, shake them up, and use them together randomly just to be orcs with hand weapon and shields, because the light swordsmen also suffer from the same patterns and repetition, and that's a particular challenge to try and break that up. And finally, we've got the heavy axemen, or polearms. I guess if you were playing Warmaster, these would be black orcs with great weapons, something like that perhaps, and that's pretty cool. And then I've got the command strips there, a 2 and a 3, which I've just arranged alternately to give you some idea of what they would look like. So you do get quite a lot in the box, and it'll be interesting to see what I can do with these once I start painting them and basing them and making them look like a proper orc horde. And to wrap this video up, I just wanted to do a quick scale comparison. On the left here, in painted bright green, we've got some Pendraken orcs, and these are advertised as being 10 to 12 mil. Obviously the Wargames Atlantic heavy swordsmen that we can see here, they're 10 mil orcs, so there is a little bit of a size discrepancy. If I was painting all of these up as green skins, then it might prove challenging to get them all to fit and integrate. But I think if we're painting orcs up to look like Lord of the Rings, then the difference in size at this scale probably isn't too much of an issue. One thing I want to do with these orcs here is repaint them. I'll probably give them very pale, if not white skin, and make them look like Gundabad orcs from the Hobbit movie. Alternatively, I could give them more of a chestnut brown or mahogany skin tone, and that would make them look like Uruk-hai. And then the fact that they are slightly taller than these Wargames Atlantic orcs wouldn't really matter. The other thing that's worth noting is that the orcs that Wargames Atlantic produce are very similar to sort of Lord of the Rings orcs, and also the Warlords of Erewhon fantasy orcs that are produced by Warlord Games. So they have that more humanistic and realistic feel to them. They're not like the classic green skins from Warhammer or Warhammer the Old World with the jutting jaws and tusk-like teeth. So leaning into the Lord of the Rings aesthetic with these and painting them in different skin tones, I think will actually end up producing an orc army that looks really quite good. Just using the Wargames Atlantic orcs as your basic Mordor orcs, or maybe your Morannon orcs, and then coming in and using the Pendraken orcs as Uruk-hai or Gundabad orcs. Now, I've got some Pendraken elves here. I had a go at painting these so they fit more with the Lord of the Rings aesthetic. You can't really see that too well on here on the green cutting mat, but previously they were based like this. I've kept this strip intact because I will be doing a video where I demonstrate how I rebase and repaint these elves so that they look more like elves from the last Alliance. Part of the reason for doing that was because I didn't want to sit there painting hundreds of different shield emblems and trying to recreate that kind of high fantasy white and blue feel of Warhammer High Elves. I'd rather lean into the Lord of the Rings vibe with all the 10mm models that I've got, so that I can create some armies that are perhaps more realistic, a little bit more earthy and grungy, but also where any differences in size or scale aren't too obvious. So you can see there how they scale up to the 10 to 12mm elves from Pendraken Miniatures. Then we've got the dwarves here from Wargames Atlantic, the dwarven host that I reviewed in my previous video on this scale, and the old school style elves, which I will be changing. One of the things that I've started to do more recently is paint up some of my 28mm dragons. This one here is the Snow Mountain Dragon that was sculpted by Tony Ackland for Harlequin Miniatures probably 30 odd years ago. This is a solid metal 1 kilogram monster, but I've painted and based this so that I can use it not just in my 28mm games but also with my 10mm miniatures. So I've just dropped the two Pendraken Orcs that I have onto the bases here, just to do a scale comparison and show you the direction that I'm going in with my grand battle scale armies. I'm very much looking forward to using some of my old school Citadel and Pre-Slaughter miniatures to augment the forces that end up on the gaming table. And I hope you will agree, certainly when you look at the repainted elves there, that they kind of fit really nicely. I've also painted up a Forge World Fire Dragon, which is a particularly huge beast. Please check that video out as well if you haven't seen it already. As always, thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please smash that like button. Please hit subscribe for more videos like this. And if you'd like to leave a comment, please do, but please keep those comments kind and respectful. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.